welcome back to another Mackem in the Middle podcast after another Sunderland League game, this time a home game at home to Rotherham United, a team that were unbeaten in the season going into this game, and it did finish 3-0 to Sunderland, which was of course Tony Mowbray's first win in charge of Sunderland. And very shortly we'll get into everything that happened in the game, and of course a little bit touching on the appointment of Tony Mowbray, as well as the inevitable talk about transfers, as it is transfer deadline day as we speak, and Sunderland are looking likely to bring at least one or two more players in between now and the deadline. But back to the game, Michael. Tony Mowbray's first game in charge. 37,000 there again last night. We'll get on to the performance, the result, obviously individual performances as well. But, first and foremost on the appointment of Tony Mowbray, it was one that was criticised by some people, praised by other people. It was labelled as a safe appointment, one that, many people couldn't really see us getting promoted under him. But at the same point, it almost guarantees you safety in this league. So I think the appointment in general was a good one from someone's point of view.
Yeah, I fall on that camp as well. It's obviously divided opinion, to say the least. I think it's because, obviously, if you look at the impact Alex Neil has, everyone knows my thoughts on Alex Neil at this point, so I won't go on about him. But if you look at the upheaval we've had over the last few days with regards to the head coach position, I think Tony Mowbray is someone I think who could just come in and calm everything down and just quietly let us go about our business. And if you look at what he did at Blackburn, I know it's easy to point to that, but we'll point to it because he only left there a few months ago. You look at the fact he got them up from League One. He took over when they were basically all but relegated by the sound of it. I might be wrong on that, but brought them back up and then stabilised them over a few years. Granted, I don't want us to take as long as what they did to stabilise. I'd like to be trying to push for promotion a little bit quicker. But for this season and for next season, if you comfortably consolidate for this season, then for me that's a successful season. And I said that even before the head coach change. So I'm more on the positive side of things with it. I mean, obviously, I try to be glass half full anyway, but it's certainly one, like you said yourself. I would like to think when at the end, come say February, March time, we're going to be well clear of the relegation battle, and that's all I personally really wanted from this season in a realistic sense. If we could push higher, then great, but I'm not particularly expecting it. And I'll just point out, and yes, it's one interview that he did, but the interview he did last night really struck a chord with me and really spoke really well of him. But obviously, as he himself said, there are darker days around the corner.
Yeah, it was like a mini podcast, that interview, wasn't it? I think it was 7 minutes long.
It might as well be. It was like 6.5 minutes, wasn't it? But I really liked it. I like listening to how he spoke. I like listening to the fact he sounded grateful to be here. Although I'm not sure how much I know he's got to say this, but like crediting Dodds and Proctor, well, we'll see how much they have an impact on things in terms of preparing the team. But yeah, no, he spoke well enough. And as you get onto the game, his first game couldn't have really gone much better.
Yeah. And the one thing I found weird, I say weird, a little bit strange about the appointment, Dylan, was just how quickly everything happened. Within the space of 4 days, we'd went from a manager who appeared to be comfortable at the club, happy with the club, how it was going, to having a completely new manager through the door. So, with how quick Alex Neil went to Stoke, that was obviously rumoured the day before he actually joined. He joined, I think it was, I'm not even going to try and label what day it was because I've lost track of time, but, he joined the day after it was first rumoured. Tony Mowbray came through the door about 2 or 3 days later. So the fact that everything's happened so quickly, Sunderland spent what was 3 weeks, I think, to appoint Alex Neil after Lee Johnson was sacked. So that was a case of, not being prepared. With how well prepared these two managerial changes have been, it implies to me at least that this wasn't really a secret and wasn't something that the board had ruled out happening a few weeks ago.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you're right. Obviously, all we can do is speculate from our point of view because we don't have all the facts. But the facts we do have is that obviously 4 weeks ago, Alex Neil had agreed new terms on that deal and evidently still requested that the clause regarding being able to talk to other clubs should they come in be in that contract. So I imagine if that was obviously just 4 weeks ago and he wasn't happy to get rid of that clause, obviously if I was the club, I would have had just something going on in the background, as like a backup option just in case he were to go. And obviously he had gone, and whilst he was whilst we were playing Norwich the other night, Alex Neil was down in Stoke getting ready to take over. Obviously, Tony Mowbray was at the ground. So I think really does give off the impression that maybe discussions had already been going on with him whilst the whole debacle with Alex Neil was going on. But to be fair, I think that's very smart, and obviously to have an option there to go to in case the worst happens, your manager does leave. It's sort of smart from the clubs, for as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, straight into the game, Michael, because like I said, we'll try and keep this one short because, quite frankly, later tonight we will be discussing probably this in far more depth.
You just want to save yourself content for that, don't you?
We do, absolutely. But on the game, lineup-wise, it was unchanged. Don't think there's too many surprises on that. Obviously, we've made a few signings, which we'll get onto, but none of them, well, obviously, other than Bennett and possibly Michu, the other two wouldn't have been registered in time anyway. So it was unchanged. Luke O'Nien at the back alongside Bart and Sirkin with Gooch and Clark as wing-backs. Corey Evans and Dan Neil in midfield behind Pritchard, who was supplying the balls through to Ellis Sims and Ross Stewart up front. So I don't think there was any surprises in terms of the lineup. And I think start of the game, Sunderland started very well.
They did. Obviously, the concern for me as the half grew on was the fact that we didn't take our chances, and we had some good ones in the first half to take the lead before we did later in the game. But we started really well. We pinned Rotherham in. I think it was Tony Mowbray himself said that they couldn't even get out of their own 18-yard box, let alone their own half. And I think that's a fair assessment. I think we pinned Rotherham in, and I was surprised actually at how easy we found the game, for want of a better word, because we struggled against Rotherham last season, and we needed an own goal to get us a point at the end of last season. So for us to start like that, and for us to constantly pin them in and show the intent on the foot straight away, shows to me that Tony Mowbray actually hasn't got that much tweaking to do to get the best out of this team.
Yeah. And on the first half, Dylan, surprisingly, if you were to watch the highlights, you'd have missed all of it because for some reason they don't show it. But like Michael alluded to there, Sunderland could have been 4, 5, 6-0 up by half-time. Few chances in the first half. Ellis Sims probably with the first one that went just over. I think Ross Stewart had one just a few minutes later that went just wide. It was starting to look like another one of them games, especially at home, where we would dominate possibly for the first 60, 70 minutes, potentially run out of legs towards the end of the game and concede a sloppy goal, going to lose the game. And, we'd come on here, talk about the good performance, didn't take our chances, but we'll obviously get on to the second half. But the first half was starting to look like the game would pan out that way.
Yeah, no, 100%. I was starting to get worried towards the end of the half because obviously, as soon as the first whistle went for kickoff, we're in their faces. We're at them as Michael was saying, they could barely get out of their own half, and we just really pressed them for 45 minutes straight. And Ross Stewart should have probably had enough goals to already secure himself the golden boot come the end of that half, but somehow he's just never managed to find the net. And sometimes that's just the way it goes. But obviously, it was. With what's happened in games so far at home this season, it was starting to make me worry that maybe we weren't going to make the most of the chances we were getting, and we were going to end up having one of those games where we play exceptionally well and don't get the result we wanted. But obviously we'll get on the second half. But it was very important that we got the win today. Obviously with the new manager coming in, but also just to finally get our first win at home, because you can only come out of the ground and say, "Oh yeah, but we played well," so many times before it becomes frustrating.
Yeah. And obviously on the second half, Michael, we've seen it happen this season. We've seen it happen in other seasons where Sunderland have dominated the first half and not, got the reward for it. Come out second half, the opposition have had the team talk. They've possibly tweaked the formation or personnel a little bit and probably started the second half better. But again, the second half followed a very similar theme to the first. Sunderland dominated possession, moved the ball quickly, efficiently, and it was 7 minutes until Sunderland finally took the lead. And it was Jack Clark, who obviously I'm sure we'll mention plenty in this podcast.
Oh, I'm sure we will.
He was involved in the build-up, of course, left-hand side. He put a ball in towards, well, I think it was actually aimed towards Sims, but he let it go. Stewart's there in the middle. It's a simple finish, but, it's only simple if you're in the right place. And like Ross Stewart always is, he was there again. Important time to score, a good goal to score. And, it's good to see Clark getting further up the pitch, using his left foot, which is something that especially John, I know, and quite a few other people were talking about last season. He'd always cut in on his right-hand side. He became very predictable to defend against. And when people did suss him out, he was very ineffective. But this season, confidence-wise. He likes to beat his man. He can go on his left now, he can go on his right, and obviously the first goal has come from him going on his left, putting the ball in the box, and Stewart's there to finish it off.
You're right. Obviously that was the theme of the Norwich game, where you don't take your chances, and then we lost the game because of that later on. But for this game, you're right. But I think was both of Clark's assists were from his left foot, weren't they? I know his second one definitely was, but I can't remember whether this one was.
Second one was his right foot.
Right foot. Okay, well, fair enough then. But either way, it was good. Jack Clark. We'll get. I'm going to get onto him now. I think he was excellent last night. I think he had his man on toast constantly throughout. He was a constant danger. He was very unpredictable, which made him a lot harder to defend against. And as you said, ball comes in across the box. Stewart, I think, is like half falling on the floor as he puts it past the keeper. But regardless, that was a key moment and time to score, because that was a game, and we saw this at the end of last season, where you go behind in a game like that when Rotherham, being blunt, came up here to time waste and try and get a point. It was good to finally get the opening goal, because if he'd gone behind, the time wasting would have been exacerbated. It would have been a horrible game. We wouldn't have been able to get into our rhythm. So to get the lead so quickly into the second half, and as you said, to continue the play we did in the first half, when in previous games we might have folded a little bit in the second, is very, very, very pleasing.
Yeah. And it was just 10 minutes or so later, Dylan, that we made it 2-0. And again, Jack Clark and Ross Stewart, the two involved. Once again, it wasn't on his left foot this time, it was on his right, but same kind of idea. Instead of cutting inside, he's cut outside, got to the byline, outside the foot cross to the back post, where Ross Stewart again. It's not a difficult finish. It's not an easy one, but it's not a difficult one. It's a one that, had he missed, you'd have probably thinking, he should have scored that. But again, it's one of them goals that if you're not in the right place at the exact right time, you're not going to score it. And like we've said, Ross Stewart, he knows where to be, when to be there. And again, it's another goal. I think that takes his tally up to 5 for the season with 3 assists. So, I think there was a stat on Twitter yesterday or last night that he now averages a goal contribution in the Championship every 78 minutes, I think it was. And obviously, we've talked about whether people would agree that he would step up to the Championship. He certainly has. But again, just a very well worked goal, the second one.
Yeah, no, Ross Stewart just has that striker's instinct that you can't teach. And I can't remember exactly what happened, but if I remember correctly, I think he felt the ground or something up on the right hand side and sort of the middle of the park. And then as soon as Jack Clark started running down the left wing, he's just made a dash as fast as he can to get the back post. And then obviously by the time the crosses come in, he's there and he's slotted the ball in. And it's that sort of instinct and that sort of commitment to getting forward and getting on the end of chances that you can't learn. And I think that's what makes Ross Stewart one of the better strikers in this division. I know it's only early days, but it's all the goals are proving it, and I have no doubt there's many more to come this season.
Yeah. And like we said, again, it was Jack Clark that was involved, Michael. And we all know how good of a player he is. He's got so much potential. He hasn't had a club that he stayed at, like a lot of young players nowadays. They signed for a big club for, a relatively big fee. And in terms of Jack Clark, it was 10 million to Spurs this time. Goes on loan to one club, goes on loan to a different club, plays a different position under a different manager, under a different set of tactics, in a different formation. You then go to another club where you have to adapt to something completely different. And again, he's came to Sunderland, played for under Alex Neil. Again, had to adapt to something a little bit different under Tony Mowbray. Obviously, nothing too dissimilar, quite frankly, because he'd only been in the door for a day, Tony Mowbray. But for a player at this age, this is the first club that he's really been at where we can call it a home. He's playing in a left wing back position, which again isn't his natural position. The way he's improved since the first time he came in, the first game he played, up until obviously last night's game, you can just see how much more confident he is on the ball, off the ball, defensively, trying to beat the man. And again, I don't want to keep mentioning it, but just having the confidence to go on to his left foot, cut inside, cut outside, get a ball in the middle. At the minute, he looks like a player that could do anything.
I'm pretty sure we did a podcast not long ago where confidence was one of the most overused words of all time. And I think we're kind of following suit with this one. And thanks very much, because you're going to feed my ego when I said in the summer that if you give Jack Clark a chance and see what he's like when he has a home, that you're going to see a much better player. And again, I always harp on about this, but I think it's a lesson for people to not write a player off if they don't have a blinding first opening dozen games or so. Obviously, sometimes they turn out not to be very good, but Clark is one of those that for me is really adapting now. And as you said, and I made this argument with Patrick Roberts as well, obviously he's not starting as much, But with Jack Clarke, he's getting a home. He's getting somewhere that he's going to be played regularly. He's not got stop, start at different clubs up and down the country, because I think he's been to Leeds again, QPR, he's been to Stoke.
Seems to be everywhere.
Sorry?
Seems to have been everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere, up and down the country, basically. But you're right. I think that you could just see the confidence he had last night, and there are going to be games where he's not effective. We have to accept. We do have to accept that. We do have to remember he's still only 21, I think it is.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he's a championship level player, in my opinion. And for me, that was worth. I think so far he's proven that he was worth every penny that we paid towards Spurs. However much the deal's going to come to down the line, but he is worth it, because he's tearing the championship up by storm at the moment. And next to the likes of Ross Stewart and Ellis Sims, I think Jack Clarke's had one of the biggest impacts of the season. And as you're right, if you have a confidence and you have a home, it's amazing how much that does for a player.
Yeah. And obviously, just 5 minutes after that, Ross Stewart brace was confirmed. Jack Clarke added a third goal for Sunderland and his first goal of the game. And it was actually Ross Stewart that provided the assist this time. Just a long ball up from Danny Bart into Ross Stewart, who does what he does, held the ball up, plays it to Clarke, and from there, just, again, not to use the same word again, but just the confidence, to beat a man, beat another man, cut inside, and obviously have the shot that he's put in the bottom corner. It was a goal that, rounded off a very, very good performance, Dylan.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we all know that Jack Clarke's got the legs to take players on, and he's also got the technical ability to just dance around everybody the way and then he just kept running, and then he kept running, and then he's just placed it in the far corner, the other side. And I mean, he's been so important for this season, I think.
I'm going to stop you there because it sounds like you're getting drowned at the minute.
Oh.
It sounds like someone should pushing your head underwater every 5 seconds.
It does. You keep cutting on and off.
Oh dear. Is it getting any better or no?
That's
now
fine.
It's okay.
Okay, I don't know what was happening there. Right. Well, what I was going to say was, obviously, it's very important that yesterday's contributions takes him to, I believe, 2 goals and 3 assists in 7 games or something along those lines. And I mean, to get that from, albeit a wing back, still a defensive position, just shows that what he can contribute going forward, even playing a bit deeper on the pitch. So yeah, at risk of cutting out again, I'll just cut this one off with saying that he's the absolute dog's bollocks, and I hope he wins us the league. Cheers.
Yeah. And obviously, this was a game that we labelled, Michael, as, it was a home game, obviously, and this was the first home game that we had won. Granted, Rotherham, again, were a side going into this game that hadn't actually lost in the league yet. I think they were missing a few players, defenders especially, going into this one. But, at home against a team that, again, were promoted and, were one of the, and probably still are, to be honest, one of the favourites to actually get relegated this season. It was a game that we looked at and said, that is a game that you have to win. Some of the other games that we've drawn, especially at home, the likes of, Coventry, and a few others, you've looked at and think, yeah, we'd like to win that. If we don't, you can still take positives from it. This was the one game that we looked at and said, you have to win no matter what. And we didn't only just win, probably produced the best 90-minute performance of the season as well.
There's an argument for that, and there's competition for the best 90-minute performance, which I suppose is a positive in of itself. But you're right. If you look at all the home games we've had, on the opening day, I said Coventry must not lose. QPR, I think, obviously, again, must not lose, at least get a point, but obviously should have been a win. Norwich, for me, was obviously with everything that happened the day before Norwich, I thought that if you lose but put in a good performance, then you can bear with it and you can tolerate it. But I think with the game, this Rotherham game for me was the one where no, you absolutely have to win. I think it was you who said that most games we're going to be going into this season, well, so far anyway, going as underdogs. This was probably one of the exceptions to that, where it's at home against a team that got promoted with us last year. And to be blunt, I think our team should be beating Rotherham. 3-0 may be questionable, I don't know, but I think we should be certainly getting a win at home against them. And we've got to remember, again, these finished 3 places above us last year. We struggled against these last year big time with physicality. And I think if they were missing players, it definitely showed. But at the same time, we were very good. And it was a complete all-round performance. Some of my favourite words, clean sheet at the back. We were very rarely troubled. And then we were just very, very ruthless going forward. We were relentless. We kept going at them repeatedly, even after we got the goals we did. So it's very, very pleasing. And as I said earlier, I mean, Tony Mowbray's first, Tony Mowbray couldn't have asked for a better first game, really. Rotherham at home, under the floodlights, 37,000 there, nice 3-0 win. And again, not to use that word repeatedly, but I'm going to confidence. It should inspire confidence. And now this result for me means I think we've had a very good month results-wise in August.
Yeah. I think especially just to go back to you again there, Michael, you talk about results. Sunderland could have easily picked up more points in the games that we've had. Again, you look at the Coventry game.
Not just could have, should have.
Should have, yeah, 100%. You look at the Coventry game, a very late equaliser there. Again, against a good team.
Was a mad 7 minutes as well.
Yeah, it's not every week you're going to concede a diving header to a goalkeeper. But again, it's one of them games that, there's 4 points more that Sunderland could have and probably should have had.
Sheffield United, you could argue get a point if not for the red card. Norwich should have got at least a point out of that.
I mean, even after the red card against Sheffield United, I think Sunderland wanted at least a point out of that as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, for all we know, we could be sitting here going top of the league. But, at the end of the day, we're 8th at the minute. So it's not all bad. We're doing all right.
Yeah. Well, player ratings we will go on to now. And Dylan, I will start with you on Anthony Patterson, who I think had 1 save to make in the game. Possibly 2.
Was that the one in the first half?
Yeah, I think there was 1. I think there was 2 in the first half. And I think they're the only ones I can actually remember.
The only one that I can remember the most was when obviously the chance came from a bit of poor defending, but the ball fell to one of their lads, I don't know who, in the box, and he's just smashed it along the floor, and somehow Patterson's got down and not only saved it, but he's held onto it.
Yeah.
And just that was an absolute brilliant save. And obviously, if he doesn't make that save, we go 1-0 down, maybe heads drop, and maybe the game ends a different way. So simply for that, I'm going to give him an 8.
Fair enough, Michael.
I was going to say 6 just because I felt he was ready trouble, but I'll go with 7 because Dylan's just had the positive effect on me. So I'll go with a nice 7 for him. But he's right. If that's a crucial moment in the game, because you go 1-0 down, the game's different. We know exactly how Rotherham would have been. They were time wasting a lot at 0-0, let alone what it would have been like when they're 1-0 up. But so 7 for me.
Yeah. Lyndon Gooch at right wing back, Dylan, again looked dangerous going forward, did his job defensively, albeit Rotherham didn't offer too much of a threat going forward.
Definitely. Just again, he's just been making marauding runs down the right, taking players on. Now we had that one way he got that excellent assist where he took everybody on, got himself in the box, and then squared the ball in. And if he gets the assist for that, maybe he gets an 8 or a 9. But I think I'll just give him a 7 for yesterday's performance. But he was very good.
Yeah, I want to hear an even better word from you, Michael, than marauding, because that was very, very good from doing that.
Exploding down the wing. I don't know. That's not quite as good as it. I can't top that. Cheers, Dylan. You took the best word I could have used. Regardless, though, yeah, I would say it probably goes. I think I agree with Dylan. The 7's about right. I think going forward, the only thing I would criticise is I think sometimes his decision making wasn't great, but that's nitpicking. Defensively, I thought he was outstanding. And again, it just solidifies that I view him better as a wing back because that's the role that suits him best. But his energy up and down the pitch was great. He wasn't afraid to get stuck in and do the dirty work. And even though I've just said decision making wasn't great, he was still a nightmare for Rotherham all evening.
Yeah. On to Luke 9, who I don't actually think we've mentioned at all yet, and it's probably a bit harsh because I thought he had another excellent game last night. And for a player that a lot of people kind of labelled as, kind of surplus to requirements, squad player at most, and few people think we should let him go. He came in at centre-back, obviously with the injury of Dan Ballard, and hasn't put a foot wrong, really. A few bad tackles here and there, but he's got away with them, luckily. But in terms of how well he's played defensively, mistakes that he's made, he hasn't really made any. And I think even if we were to bring in a defender today, it would take... Well, there'd be no reason to drop Luke 9, I think, based off the last few games done.
Yeah, no, he's been absolutely outstanding, and I'll hold my hands up and I'll admit that I was one of the fans who I don't want to say so much as written him off, but I would have preferred that he wasn't maybe starting every game. But then obviously Ballard's got injured and he's coming in centre back.
You're not alone, Dylan. I didn't think he would either.
Exactly. It's just come as quite a shock because obviously some little lad who's used to playing in midfield or out is slotted in at centre back and looks like crap. I mean, I thought the days of centre backs sub 6 foot were over, but he's looked absolutely outstanding, and I really can't fault him. And I think out of the 3 centre backs, I think he was probably the best performer last night, so I'm going to give him an 8.
Yeah, that's fair, Michael.
Again, another, I think slightly lower, but a solid 7. I thought he was man of the match on Saturday against Norwich for me, but for this game, again, solid. I think he just stood his ground well. Positional. I tell you what, his positional sense over the last couple of games has been superb. Actually, I've really rated the fact that he knows when to go for. Knows when to go for a ball. He knows when to stand in a zonal area. He knows when to clear it. He knows when to head it. He knows when to get it back to the keeper. His decision making defensively has just been really, really good. And just to add on to what Dylan said, has there been any positions that we haven't played Luke O'Nien yet? Striker and goalkeeper. That's all I can think
I think
of.
he's actually played striker, to be fair.
Fine, goalkeeper then.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll try it at Preston at the end of the season when it's a mid-table nothingness, or we've already secured playoffs.
On the league. I think the one thing with O'Nien that I like as centre back is, well, he's a natural midfielder at League One level, League Two level, obviously with Wickham before he joined us. So his ability to come out with the ball from defence is probably better than anyone else's as well, because he's used to having the ball at his feet. Yeah,
he did that.
He's not the quickest, but he is effective when he comes out with the ball.
No, exactly, he is. And the one thing I would say about O'Nien that does concern me a little bit is that he's on 4 yellow cards already. Which, obviously one more yellow card, and I think it's a 1-game ban, isn't it? So yeah, that's one thing I think we need to be a bit wary of. But to be fair, he avoided a booking last night because referees aren't looking to go down his throat every 5 minutes. So that's a nice welcome change.
Yeah, possibly unfortunate to have 4 yellow cards because, quite frankly, I think 2 of them should have been red. But anyway, moving on to Danny Bart-Dillon again in the middle of the defence. Solid again, won the headers. A few times he does frustrate me a little bit when he's kind of under no pressure and he just, heads it away instead of bringing it down. But I suppose that's not what he's in the team to do. He's in the team to defend, clear the ball, relieve any pressure on the Sunderland back line, and that's exactly what he did against Rotherham.
Yeah, exactly. He's a no-nonsense centre back. Every time the ball comes to him, if he sees fit to hoof it down the pitch or head it clear, he does so. And for as long as it's keeping the ball out of the net, I'm happy to see him do that. And obviously, we've kept a clean sheet. We've won 3-0, so I'm going to give him a 7.
Yeah, Michael.
7. I think Dylan going first. He's nicking all the best lines to go with because I really can't think of much else to add on top of that. Just solid. I agree with you. The one thing is that he sometimes headed the one criticism again is that he headed the ball when there was time for him to take a touch and to try and control it. But maybe in the heat of the moment, you just want to make sure you get the ball away. But no, otherwise, solid night. 7 as well.
Yeah. I'll give you the first dibs on this one again, Dylan, and then we'll let Michael have the midfield first in the next one.
You're very generous. Thank you.
I am. Dennis Serkin, though, again, playing left side of a back 3. He's been one of Sunderland's best players this season, and I don't think anyone could really question that. He's getting better every week. He's looking more confident every week. And again, against Rotherham, did exactly what you expect of him.
Yeah, definitely. He's been outstanding this season, as I've said about most of the players. And I just think it's really interesting that obviously two of the lads playing in our current back 3 aren't natural centre backs, and we're playing this well. They look so at home in that position, and as well as defensively, obviously Serkin's little partnership going overlap and going down that left with Jack Clark.
Yeah.
I mean, they're absolutely brilliant, and I think they're improving every game. It gives us flashes of when Younes Kaboul used to go bombing down the left wing back when he was.
Forget that cross. We'll never forget that cross.
No, definitely
Stephen
not.
Fletcher at the back post.
Absolutely iconic. But so I think I'll give Serkin a 7 as well because he was fine. He didn't put a foot wrong and he played well going forward. So yeah, I'm really happy to see him doing well.
Yeah, completely off topic, but I think Stephen Fletcher was part of that Dundee team that lost 9-0 to Celtic, wasn't he? If I'm not mistaken.
How times have changed.
He has. Anyway, Dennis Serkin, Michael.
7 as well. Very, very so. Again, I can't sing his praises highly enough. I really rate him defensively, and I think it's nice to have and he's a fullback, obviously playing centre half. But it's nice to, even when he was playing at fullback, it's so refreshing for me to see a fullback who can actually defend. So yeah, 7 as well. Dylan's just touched most of it. I can't really add anything else to it.
Yeah, not necessarily midfield, but Michael, I'll let you have first one on Jack Clark. This time, obviously 2 assists and a goal. Good performance. Admittedly, I honestly don't think he did much in the first half. I thought, he could have done a lot better with the times that he had the ball, off the ball as well. I didn't think his movement was quite up to speed, but second half, he was the best player on the pitch by an absolute country mile.
Could not agree more if you tried. I think first half, obviously, again, like I said with Gucci, I think Clark's decision making was a bit poor in the first half, but I'm just going to ignore that to suit my narrative. Second half, absolutely outstanding performance. Again, had their fullbacks on toast, got 2 assists, 2 very good assists to be fair, and then obviously the pick of the bunch. The third goal, just exquisite to watch, absolutely exquisite. And for me, man of the match by some distance. Sorry to anyone listening, I've already spoiled my man of the match, but I'm going with a 9. I honestly think he was that good.
Yeah. Dylan?
Yeah, no, obviously we've talked about him already, but just when he's on his day, when he's worked his way in the game, obviously we said he was a bit quiet in the first half. Not everything came off, but as soon as he got got his confidence up and was prepared to just go forward and do what he does best, he was absolutely scintillating going down that left hand side, and hopefully long may it continue in a Sunderland shirt. So I'll give him a 10. I'll give him a 10. He deserves it.
Yeah, that's fair. Corey Evans, Michael.
I love that. Just Corey Evans. That's it. What can you say? Just Corey Evans.
I can't lie, I was a bit distracted by the tweet that Dylan just sent me.
Okay, well, I'll cover you back then. Yeah, Corey Evans. What can I say? Again, obviously the question marks about him playing 46 games still remains, but as of right now, he's still playing really well. He obviously knows Tony Mowbray, which is going to be a good thing. Sell him to the players and hopefully get the morale back up again. And while I'm at it, try and get Stewart and Pritchard's contract sorted, please, Sunderland. But anyway, the point is, Corey Evans, very vital cog in the machine in the midfield, just keeps it going, allows everybody else to do the flashy stuff. I would probably go as far as an 8. I thought he was very, very solid. Just kept things ticking over when we needed it.
Yeah, Dylan.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with everything that Michael's just said there. If you asked us a year ago, I would have been telling you completely different things about Corey Evans. But now it's the point where the squad's better off with him in the middle of the park, and I do get worried when he's not on the pitch. So yeah, he gets an 8 from me, and that's just what a redemption arc he's had in the past 6 months or so.
Yeah,
redemption arc. That's the perfect phrase for Corey Evans.
Yeah,
it is. You're throwing out all the big words today, aren't you?
I've got my big brain on for the interview later.
You've got your I can't even say the word thesaurus out. It's a hard word to say that. I can't even lie. I'll stick to the normal words.
Hey, do you want to try put hard name to pronounce? Try saying Josh Sargent very quickly, then see how hard that is.
There's quite a few players in this league that are quite hard to pronounce, so hopefully they don't play against us, so I don't have to mention them too much. But on to Dan Neil, Michael, again, did what you expect him to do, moves the ball well, always wants to get on the ball. And I think the one thing that I noticed from Dan Neil more yesterday than I have in any other game of his career really was, I mean, I don't really want to make this comparison, but I think it's the first thing that came to my head when it happened was literally like a young Jordan Henderson. He was telling players where to go. He was having a go at players if they were doing something wrong, making sure they were aware of it. For a 21-year-old, however old he is, he was very, what's the word?
Commanding?
That's the word. See, all the big words coming out there. Very commanding in the middle of the park. And I think on the ball, did very well again.
8. Another 8. It's actually so nice to have a podcast like this where no one gets lower than a 7 because everyone was that good. But no, Dan Neil as well. Again, like with Corey, like I said earlier, Corey Evans does the really gritty stuff and it allows Dan Neil. There was a couple of times in the first half when he was making on a bit of a frantic and mazy run when he was just beating 2 or 3 Rotherham players and leaving them for dead. And probably was up against 2 or 3 Rotherham players and was still able to keep hold of the ball, which is just weird. But I really like him. And like I said, it's one of those things that now he's in a league where it's less about physicality and more about quality. I think he will start to shine through. I think a lot of people have said it, but we've said it for a reason. He'll shine through, and last night was no exception. Very, very good.
Yeah. And Dylan, for you?
Yeah, no, he was excellent. Now, one thing everyone did say was that when we made the step up to the Championship, he'd have a lot more room to express himself and do what he wants to do. And I think we have seen that because, obviously he's always been good on the ball, but he is carrying the ball forward a lot more, especially in recent games. And it's just really nice to see him getting forwards, just running in and out of midfielders and defenders, somehow not losing the ball, then playing the ball off. And I think he's only going to improve because as we obviously he's still really young. And hopefully he's at Sunderland for a very long time because obviously he's a local lad and I will have seen him do well. So he gets an 8 from me.
Yeah, we'll try and get to these last 3 as quick as we can, starting with Alex Pritchard, Michael. Obviously he was brought off in the second half, quite frankly, because the game was done and he is a player that we can't afford to risk an injury to. But when he was on the pitch, again, just exactly what you'd expect of Alex Pritchard.
Yeah, I think I would probably say I'm debating between a 7. I'll go 8. I'll be generous. 8. Alex Pritchard just does Alex Pritchard things. That's it.
Yeah, that's the best analogy yet. Dylan?
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Al. But I'm going to give him a 7 simply because when there was one, he got played through at one point, and I think he just took one touch too many, and then obviously we ended up not scoring. I think if he just hit it by the time he got the edge of the box, maybe it was going to fly top corner. So I'll give him a 7. But he was very good, and I love him, and I hope he never gets injured again because he's just the English Messi. So
and gets a 5-year contract extension.
I
think he's still only 29, I think, isn't he? Possibly even 28, I think.
Something like
I know he's still young in the grand scheme of things. Got a good few years left, like.
Yeah, 100%. Hopefully with Sunderland. On the front two, Michael Ellis-Sims starting with. Again, no goal for him or assist, but worked hard. Had a couple of chances on goal. I say chances weren't, clear-cut ones that you'd expect him to score, but he worked the positioning well, moved the ball on his right foot or left foot, wherever it was, and managed to get a shot off on another day. Could have had a goal or two. Fairly solid game from him.
I'd say with a 7 for Sims. I think that last couple of games he struggled a bit, but we did say even when he was scoring goals that he's not gonna tear the world up every game. And again, he's 21 years old. But so for me, 7. I thought for his standards, early standards that he set, had a quiet game, but he held the ball off well when he could. Tried to link up play when he could. So I think I'd go with a 7. Just not quite everything came off for him, but he'll recover from it.
Yeah, Dan, Dylan.
Yeah, no, I think I say the same thing about him every time he plays. But even when he hasn't scored, hasn't assisted, hasn't had the greatest of games, he's always just causing problems for the defenders. And I think, unless I'm forgetting anything, I'm yet to see any centre back have beat him in a physical battle. I think he's got the strength and the power just to really be a nightmare for defenders in this league. And obviously, he's scored a few goals so far. I'm sure many more will come. But if Stuart wants to score all of them, that's fine as well, as long as someone's scoring. I'll give him a 7.
That's fair. Not the last player, but certainly not the least. Ross Stewart, 2 goals and an assist for him yesterday, Michael. Again, just very good performance. And I think what I put on Twitter yesterday was, I think he's got a year left of his contract. I think Sunderland have the option of extending that, regardless of what happens, just trigger the clause and he's here for another year. But as we've seen with Alex Neil, that doesn't necessarily always work. There's going to be clubs interested in him because, quite frankly, I think he is. In fact, I know he is the best striker in the Championship, so there's going to be interest in him. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of news come out today about a club going in for him. And hopefully he stays, and I think he will. But, for how well he did last season, how well he started this season, how integral he is to Sunderland, regardless how long he's got left on his contract, he has to be given a new one, even just because he deserves one as well.
I think for Ross Stewart, as far as last night's concerned, 8. Good solid 8. I only say 8 just because I think Jack Clark was slightly better than him, but you can't knock him. 2 goals, 1 assist, very good performance. But we keep repeating ourselves with Ross Stewart because we know how integral he is. And as you said there, I think that for me, what we should do, if we can't get him a new deal at the minute, give him that extra year, because at least then if you do sell him, you can get a little bit more money for him. But I agree with you. He needs to be given a longer contract. Same with Pritchard. I know Pritchard's like 29, 30, however old he is at this point. He could get an extra couple of years, but Stewart is the main one that we have to be given a longer contract, because either you have him progress with us to the point where we could look like we could go up to the Premier League, or you get a lot more money for him. So I'm no doubt the club will want to do that. I'm just hoping that now that everything's died down with what happened with Alex Neil, that we can start to. It wouldn't surprise me if we didn't. I said a couple of weeks ago that it wouldn't shock me if we waited until after the window's shut to deal with this. So hopefully it does get dealt with sooner rather than later.
Yeah. And I've just looked to see how old Ross Stewart was. He's 26. Lyndon Gooch is only 26 as well. I thought he was pushing 28, 29.
That's mental, that. Is this Gooch's is it like his 6th full season here? And in the first team?
His first, it will be, because his first season was, I think, the season we got relegated from the Premier League.
Yeah,
the
but
Championship
he wasn't
season.
Featured all that much, was he? So, so the Championship last time was the first season that he was a proper mainstay in the first team, wasn't he?
Yeah, so this will be his 6th season. Yeah,
that's mental. That's
technically 7 if you want to include the games that he did play in the. I don't know how many he actually played in the Premier League season, but I think he still played. He was definitely in the squad quite a few times.
I'm curious now. I need to try and find this.
Because topped the clock speed in the league that year. I can't
Yeah,
remember
he did,
what it
yeah.
was. I think it was 6 mile an hour or something like that.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah. So he's been here a while. I didn't realise he was
got
only
it.
26.
2016-17, he made 11 appearances, apparently.
Yeah. So he's been here a while, and he's still only 26 years old. Our American wing-back, as we call him. But anyway, Ross Stewart, Dylan, last but not least.
Yeah, just get him a new contract, whatever he wants within reason. Give him it, keep him on, get him a new deal for the next 3-4 years. If not, in fact, give him a lifetime contract. As far as I'm concerned, because he's scoring the goals, and I'd love to see him doing that forever and ever. So yeah, I'll give him a 9.
Yeah. Man of the match, I think Jack Clark takes that one away.
Yeah, no complaints there.
That's fair enough. Obviously, Sunderland have made some signings, and we will obviously be talking about that on a space tonight on Twitter, live at 8 o'clock over on our Twitter. We'll be live until just about midnight.
Or if you're listening to this on Friday, then maybe go back and listen to it.
Yeah, 100% go back and listen to that. But also, we'll also have a podcast out at some point in the next few days, next week or so, to go through all the signings that we've made, the departures, kind of the transfer strategy that Sunderland have clearly adapted to and stuck to as well. So all that will be discussed in different podcasts and, of course, on the space tonight as well. Still expecting a few more to come in. Obviously, Vito Minoni is a name that has popped up in the last few days. He is a free agent as of next week, I think. So if he doesn't sign today, there is still plenty of time to get that one done. But moving away from transfers, because like I said, we will discuss that at a different time. Borough away on Monday, Michael. Another game that Sunderland probably go into as underdogs. Middlesbrough will be favourites for it. But I've seen a few games from Middlesbrough this season. You know, they're a good team, they're a championship team, of course, but I don't think that anything Sunderland should be too scared of. It's a game that I'd definitely take a point away from, but, you know, if we perform how we performed last night, even against Norwich, there's no reason why Sunderland can't come away with another 3 points there.
Yeah, absolutely bang on. There's no reason, we shouldn't be fearing it. The only team, actually, no, you shouldn't be fearing anyone in this division. I think this game is obviously going to be, for me, a lot tougher than a fellow promoted team at home was in Rotherham, and who were missing a few key players. But I wouldn't complain with a point from this game. I think I said that what we've got to remember is that this is our first season back, and we can just keep the points ticking over. And then, for me, the target's still unchanged. Get the 50 points as quickly as possible, and then from there, assess what you can actually do. So for me, this is a must-not-lose game, but, you know, if we can win, all the better.
Yeah, and I will push you for a score prediction first, Michael.
Ooh. I'll tell you what, I'll go with an entertaining 2-2.
2-2. Very nice. Dylan, score predictions for Monday night. Away to Middlesbrough, of course, on Sky Sports.
I have a feeling we're gonna win. I don't know why. I really think we can take the game to them the way we have every other team so far, and hopefully, we'll come away with a result. I'll say 2-1 simply because I don't know what more goal is written in the stars. So I'll say 2-1.
2-1. Fair enough. Well, we will have a podcast out to preview that game at some point in the coming days. And like I said, we'll have a preview out. Sorry, not preview. We'll have a podcast out to talk about all the signings and departures that Sunderland have made in this transfer window. Of course, the only one that's actually been confirmed going out of the club so far is Jack Diamond, who's joined Lincoln City. Still talk about Winchester going, James Tete going, question marks over Diaku, although nothing's been reported on that. So I'd be surprised if anything happens on that front. But of course, that will all be discussed in a pod. And just to clip it again, 8 o'clock tonight, if you are listening to this on Thursday afternoon, we will be live on Twitter to go through everything Sunderland related, a little bit more in depth about the game last night against Rotherham, the appointment of Tony Mowbray, a bit on Alex Neil and the interview that he had since he went to Stoke. So much to talk about, and of course, any news that comes in between 8 p.m. and 12 a.m. It is 12 a.m., isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I always get confused now because it's midnight.
Just say midnight.
Yeah, midnight. 8 p.m. to midnight. We'll, of course, be discussing all of that as well. But until next time, we will see you later.
That's all, folks.